Well, good morning, Village Church. It's time for another devotional to keep us going during this time that we're kind of isolated from each other. Like I said, I think the last time I did a devotional, I really miss getting together rather than just doing this virtual reaching out and touching people. But at any rate, what I want to talk about this time is I've entitled it A Lesson I Learned from My Lint Roller. It's not as exciting as some of the props I've used with airplanes and so forth. It's not as exciting as a good airplane crash to analyze, but I'm continually amazed at what God can teach me and us from just ordinary things that happen in life. So the other day, Marilyn and I got into our car to do some essential driving, and just as we put the car in gear, she handed me a blue lint roller like this. And she said to me, I can't figure out how to take the end off. I want to take this end off so I can put a new one on, and I can't figure it out. And so I played with the end a little bit, and I pulled and tugged and twisted, and I was afraid I was going to break it. So I said, well, I'll do that later. It should come off easily. So I gave it back to her. And we both forgot about it until a couple of days later when we once again got in the car to do our essential driving. I saw the lint roller sitting there, and so I picked it up, and it dawned on me that this end doesn't come off. The roller just slides on like this, and there you got it, like that. So that got me thinking. It bothered me that why did it take so long for me to see that? And then it occurred to me that, well, maybe I was asking the wrong question. Instead of how can I put the roller on this, a new lint roller on this device, it was how do I take this end off? I sometimes think we ask the wrong questions of God as well when we get into a tight spot or when the stuff hits the fan. You all have heard about Job in the Bible. I'm sure most of you have anyway. He went through some bad times. His loved ones died. He got really sick. He was betrayed. And when that happens, oftentimes we ask the questions, why? And that was no different for him. But don't get me wrong. It's natural to ask the why questions. And I'm not criticizing anyone for doing that. But it may be not always the best question to ask. There's value in asking the why question if we do something ourselves that wasn't very smart and we don't want to repeat that. Then maybe the why question is not a bad question to ask. But when we're talking about undeserved suffering that we see sometimes, trying to figure out why that happens can lead you down a real murky trail rather than get you where you want to be. So I'm suggesting that during tough times, why is maybe the wrong question to ask. Just like it happened with Marilyn when she asked me, how do I take this end off? It sent me down a rabbit trail for a while that had no end, no good resolution. That was the struggle that Job and his friends experienced in the Old Testament. They were asking the wrong questions. They're trying to figure out why were these bad things happening to Job. And if you remember, the Bible describes him as being a wealthy, upright man who didn't deserve the tragedy that had struck him and his family. His children were killed, his wealth and health were destroyed. And throughout the book, he and his friends speak about who God is. They know a little about God. They know, in fact, a lot about God, that he was a restorer, a miracle worker, a rainmaker, omnipotent ruler. He was just. He was merciful. But they just had to figure out why was this happening to Job. And so they accused him of having either a secret sin or being in rebellion or just not saying he's sorry about stuff. And chapter after chapter, that's what they focus on. Now, clearly, Job, and we would be angry and questioning too. And that's what they focused on. But that's not how they got their answers. Think about this a minute with me. As I thought about that, the why question, what's really going on when we insist on knowing all of God's whys? The truth is, we're trying to reduce God to our manageable terms. to understand all the mysteries of life and suffering. I mean, think about it. We can't even understand all the mysteries of COVID-19. I can remember asking my doctor when I first got my pacemaker, and he was describing what my heart was doing and why I needed one. And I said, "Why is it doing that, Doc?" He says, "You know, we know a lot about the what, but we don't know much about the why." I thought that was really, really, really wise. When we try to insist on knowing why, we are creating a God who fits our own understanding and reason. And that doesn't bring us to resolution. It doesn't bring us closer to the presence of God. So one of my favorite passages, and what I want to just leave us with this morning, is found in the middle of Job's suffering, when his attention seems like a laser all of a sudden focuses on who God is. And it's found in the 25th verse of chapter 19. It goes like this: "For I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, then in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see on my side, and my eyes shall behold not another." I just love the way in the middle of his asking the why question, he gets around to declaring who God is. He says, "My Redeemer lives." And this is not the end of my life or all that's going to happen to me, because one day I will be with him. Job was focusing on who God who God is. It doesn't explain away his suffering, nor does it teach him how to avoid suffering, but it does lead him to worship. And eventually, he learns to accept and respect the mystery of suffering. In that moment of looking at who God is, our Savior, Redeemer, we can mysteriously, along with Job, be led into God's presence, where we find ourselves in wonder and awe, worshiping God. It's a matter of asking the right question. If we focus on why questions, why is this happening to me? Why is God allowing this to happen or doing this to me? Just leads us farther away from sensing God's presence. But when we honestly and with an open heart, I believe, ask the question, who are you, God? Meaning, what are you like, God? Then we're open to discovering more about him. We're fortunate because Jesus told us exactly how to do that. He said, "Look, when you see me, you see the Father," John 14:9. Focusing on him, like I said, may not answer all of our why questions, but it certainly brings us closer to answering the who question that brings us into worship, so that we can navigate the good and the bad days. A.W. Tozer has a great book quote in one of the beginning of his books. He says, "What comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us." Getting to know God better is a result of asking the right questions. What we know about God's character makes all the difference when the going is tough. Remember the lesson from the Lint Roller. Ask the right question will get you where you want to be. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.